Spring 1901. 7 great powers struggle to decide the future of Europe in the new century. Will they usher in an era of peace and friendship, or tear the continent asunder with betrayal and bloodshed? I know what my money's on. Next on the Gameshelf, we look at Diplomacy, the classic 7-player board game of international intrigue. Diplomacy was invented by Alan B. Calamer in the 1950s while he was a student at Harvard Law School, just down the street from me. It was first published in 1959 and is currently in print by Wizards of the Coast, who provided us with the copy we used in today's show. But despite its 50-year history, I had known the game only by reputation, so I decided to correct this the only way that made sense to me. I invited 7 friends to Gameshelf Manor, had them wear nationally appropriate hats, and filmed them playing. The game takes place on a stylized map of Europe, broken into large spaces called provinces. The 7 players each begin the game holding several provinces that reflect the national boundaries of a major European power, more or less as they stood circa 1901. Within their borders, players place 3 or 4 game pieces representing army or navy units. Players also begin with a few special map areas called supply centers. Units can move 1 space per turn, and their goal is to capture as many other supply centers as they can. Moves happen simultaneously, with everyone writing movement orders down on slips of paper, and in our case, putting them into my hat. These slips are then read, and the resulting moves play out on the board. Conflict inevitably arises because the board is crowded, and each space on the map can only hold 1 unit. You can't simply march into an occupied space, but you can dislodge an opponent's piece from that space if any adjacent unit declared support for your attack during its own move. Defending pieces can also receive support, and they'll hold their turf if they can match the attacker's number of supporting units. At the start of the game, though, each player has too few pieces to be able to effectively capture occupied territory all by themselves, and this is where the name of the game comes in. Prior to every movement phase, there is a diplomacy phase, where players can speak with one another, forming alliances and gathering intelligence any way they wish. It's up to the players to determine how best to win allies, or at the very least, convince their enemies to pick on someone else. Besides an agreed-upon time limit, no rules govern this phase of the game, freeing players to lie, eavesdrop, fake orders, spread rumors, or just peek at each other's notes.
Are you looking at my map?
No, I'm not looking at your map. But do you have all your strategies written on your map there? That's a good plan.
We went with the rulebook's recommended limit of 30 minutes of discussion prior to the first turn, and then 15 minutes for every diplomacy phase thereafter. That done, we began the clock. Almost immediately, Germany, France, and England rushed upstairs to begin talks.
Well, I had some ideas, but did you guys have ideas about directions you might like to go?
I was thinking about Denmark.
Because we knew our roles before the game started, I knew that I kind of wanted to join with Germany and England, and I thought I had an idea of the other players and what their styles might be like, and I thought it would work at the beginning of the game as a good jumping off point because they're so close to me geographically.
So you get both your fleets in the sea, so you can then take Denmark and Norway next turn.
Yes, exactly.
Their action didn't escape the attention of Eastern and Southern Europe.
So Germany, England, and France are off.
Apparently Germany, England, and France are off having a conversation together.
Doesn't surprise me.
Scares me.
Yeah. The mood was basically, oh crap, they're plotting, and so we kind of decided, okay, we should figure something out ourselves. That very much worried us, having those 3 in some kind of alliance from the very beginning.
Honestly, it was far enough away from me that I didn't really have much of a take on it. I was much more concerned about what was going on in my neighborhood with Russia and Turkey.
Are you sure that's Austrian?
We can say it is.
They did make good use of their time by forging some non-aggression pacts of their own.
I'm really happy to leave all of it alone, except just take Romania.
Okay, that actually fits with my plans. I was going to head down towards Serbia.
Sure.
Honestly, at the start of the game, my feeling was that I did not want to make enemies too soon. My general feeling was if you make an enemy, they can be an enemy for the rest of the game, but if you make an ally, they can end up stabbing you. So I don't want to be too I don't want to close off any possibilities at the beginning. And it really seemed to come out that way. No one necessarily wanted to help me out. I was just kind of neutral for a while.
Once the so-called North Sea Alliance came downstairs, there was a little bit of static.
But I would certainly be happy to leave you and your intentions alone if you stay out of Scandinavia.
I'm certainly saying I can assure you I'll stay out of Scandinavia for now at least.
The thoughts were that Scandinavia was going to be England's, and so it was kind of an amusing little moment where I'm like, oh sure, I won't take Scandinavia.
The first move of the game produced no real interplayer conflicts, at least not on the map. This is actually typical. At the start of the game, the board is full of these completely unoccupied supply center spaces, such as in Scandinavia or Iberia. Low-hanging fruit for whoever gets there first. In diplomacy, each spring phase is followed by a fall phase, where the stakes are higher. Because after fall comes winter, and it's during winter that national borders get redrawn. Each supply center occupied by a unit at the end of a fall turn becomes property of that unit's owner, if it isn't already. Supply centers are important for two reasons. First, you can field as many units as you have supply centers, so more is definitely better. Conversely, losing a supply center means having to give up a unit, and if you lose all your supply centers, you're eliminated from the game. Supply centers also serve as the game's scoring system. Any player that holds 18 of the board's 34 supply centers wins the game of diplomacy. That player will almost inevitably have to turn on their allies at some point, rewarding their trust with a knife in the back, and winning more supply centers for themselves if they can time it right. We'll learn more about that later. Shared victories are also possible. Should an alliance of 2 or more players succeed in wiping the board clean of all of their adversaries, then they can simply agree to call it a day without the need to turn on one another. Back to the game. While our friends in the North Sea Alliance kept talking, France wasn't so sure about where things stood.
It's inevitable that I eventually go either to Italy or to Germany or up into England.
Right.
They seemed like a good target. And I mean, they'd probably be the easiest one to ally against, because I knew I would not be able to get Germany against England, so the solution was to get ally with Austria or Italy against Germany.
So I need to know what your designs are on Greece.
My design's on Greece.
Because the way you're set up right now looks like you're going straight for it.
Well, Austria, the thing about Austria is he's just right on the warpath for Turkey. In order for me to get anywhere else, I had to go through him. Just looking at the board, the spots were mine.
We have some conflicts.
We have some conflicts here. What's going on, guys?
So in Norway here, we have a standoff.
Yep,
So we go back.
That phase's orders saw some interplayer conflict, but it was only what we call bouncing. That's when 2 opposing units try to enter the same territory with equal support or no support at all. They just bounce off each other and nobody ends up with that territory.
Alright, so what's going on in Trieste? Pirates. Okay.
Yes, Italy just blamed its aggression against Austria on pirates. It's worth noting that in diplomacy, players do not start on equal geographic footing. Germany and Austria, in particular, begin the game in the precarious state of each having 3 immediately adjacent opponents.
I don't trust Germany at all.
Right.
And I know that it's inevitable that I'm going to eventually need to go that route.
Right.
I thought it was kind of bold of France, because I thought France was working with Germany. For myself, my own interests at that point were away from Germany, so I wasn't really in a position to move against Germany myself.
In the early game, Austria avoided making any firm alliances, while his neighbor, Germany, aggressively sought them.
Okay, I will be completely honest with you. The thing that I would really, really, really like is to take over France.
I was like, oh, France is my friend. I better maybe I should just not take any action here at all. Let France deal with Italy. If France asks for help against Italy, then we'll deal with that separately. But mostly I was more worried about shoring up my own borders.
The fleet in the Norwegian Sea is moving to, what's BAR? Okay.
Wow. Playing this game, Russia.
Interesting.
It was clear to me if I was going to remain allies, at least for any extent of time, with Germany and France, I needed to channel my aggression somewhere to sweep up territory. So Russia seemed like a pretty logical place to go, especially up there. No one else besides England is really poised to do that well.